How's it going, ladies and gents? It's your boy, Slim Shady. No, it's me. Sorry, Eminem's not here. Instead, you get me, JacksonABush. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Let me shake your hand. Hopefully you have some Germ-X, because we are in a pandemic, or at least we should be, shouldn't be? I don't know. The numbers kind of trend down, right? But that's not what we're here to talk about at all. What we're here to actually talk about, as you can see behind me, this boy right here, is The Dark Knight. Now I know what you're thinking. Jackson, didn't you already talk about Batman like a couple days ago? Yeah, that's true. I did talk about Batman, but there was one thing I didn't talk about, which was a better Batman, in my opinion, and that would be this Batman, otherwise known as The Dark Knight. And to be honest, today was going to be a different sort of video. I was just going to talk about The Dark Knight as a whole, because I watched it for the first time over the summer while I was, actually quarantined. And I was going to watch it and kind of talk about what I thought about each of the movies and the whole thing as a whole, watching it as a teenager, or, almost 18, almost an adult. But instead, I thought of something better, because after I'd watched the Dark Knight trilogy, a couple weeks went by and I hadn't reviewed it yet, but I ran across a little movie called Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. Not the actual title, but you get what I'm saying. It was that Birds of Prey movie with Margot Robbie and the whole new cast of women who would basically have their own little team. And I wanted to talk about what I think makes movies like the Batman trilogy versus the Birds of Prey 1 movie, what differences there are, and what I think it means for DC as a whole. So let's get into it. So immediately someone who's watching this could point out the director and say, well, there you go, there's your problem. You have one of the biggest directors of all time versus, whoever directed Birds of Prey. I don't remember who it is exactly, but, you have these two moving forces against each other. One obviously outclasses the other. To that I say, okay, sure, you can actually put a lot on Christopher Nolan in terms of how the movie was made. It was an excellent movie to make. And of course, I'm kind of just talking about The Dark Knight right now, because that's what the background is. Obviously, all three movies are great, but people regard this one as the best one, so I'm kind of just using that one. But yeah, you could very much direct it to Christopher Nolan in terms of how he put everything together. Every choice he made, every stylistic, everything he did was for the best of the movie. Now, the director of Birds of Prey, was a woman named Kathy Yan, and she's a Chinese-born American film director, screenwriter, and producer. Her films include the comedy drama Dead Pigs and Birds of Prey. Right off the bat, it's not like a gender thing or anything, but I don't know who she is. I don't know her work very well. If she is basically a well-known indie director or anything, I don't really know. But yeah, someone could make that argument, was my point, and then say, well, there you go, one outclasses the other. And to that I say, yes, that's true, but I really want to dissect the actual DC mythos of it all. So you go to The Dark Knight. First of all, you have Batman as a character who has been used so many times through various animated series, films, everything you can think of, Batman has been a part of. And he's become a staple in the American comic universe in terms of what people think of when they think superhero. Anybody who knows anything about comic books could at least tell you who Batman is. And in that same vein, Harley Quinn came from an animated Batman show, and she's risen to such popularity that I think maybe not everybody who knows Batman would know who she is, but a majority of younger people would. And I think that kind of speaks to her character as well. Just as Batman would have been able to sort of move everything into whatever story that he was a part of, Harley Quinn should be able to do basically the same thing. Right away, I have the example of the Harley Quinn TV show. Now, in that TV show, Harley Quinn breaks up with the Joker, just like in this movie, but also teams up with Poison Ivy and creates her own little league of villains. Now, I will say the thing about this show in particular is that it relies so much on comedy and so much on gags that can only sometimes be done in an animated format, that it does successfully derive a good content at the end of the day in a 20-minute format that works perfectly. Now, here's the deal with Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. Right away, I gotta say that it doesn't have a good formatted structure. At times, it wants to be dramatic and point to the fact that Harley's breaking away from the Joker. Other times, it just wants to be a comedy making fun of itself. And then other times, altogether, it wants to play on Deadpool, where Harley Quinn speaks directly to the camera, breaks the fourth wall, all that sort of stuff. Which also, isn't her actual forte. She's not known for breaking the fourth wall. And what ends up happening is you take this character of Harley Quinn, which, in particular would have been a great story if they just would have gone solely off her story, and you mend her to fit whatever kind of style of a movie you want to make, especially because this is the Suicide Squad version of Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie. Now let's go back to Batman for a second. Christopher Nolan, and in general, the people who wrote this story, took Batman for what he is. Billionaire, fights crime, the whole thing. And they don't twist it to make it, any new direction, any the Amazing Spider-Man direction, where they take it, make it a little bit darker, maybe take a key aspect, flip it on its head. They don't do that. They keep it straight with Batman. And anything that would necessarily be comic book exclusive, like the reason he has a bat cowl and he has those ears, they make it logistically a purpose for in this movie, such as those are antenna that he can actually use to hear the city of Gotham using people's phones and their conversations. So in that sense, immediately you have this sense of characters who are treated with proper respect. I think the Batman got treated with more respect than Harley Quinn, but that's just my first take on the two characters. And I guess moving out from there, we can start to talk about the actual side characters, or who make these characters who they are. Now let's start with Batman. You have Alfred, obviously, brilliant Sir Michael Caine. And then you have Heath Ledger's Joker in terms of this movie, who just brought an amazing performance as the Joker. One that has not really been matched since. Obviously you have Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. That's a whole other video you could make, just, comparing him to the rest. Then you have, who else do you have? Not Catwoman, because that would be Dark Knight Rises. You have Jim Gordon, of course, who brings such a powerful essence to his character and a strong arm to the scenes that he's in, and kind of makes Jim Gordon his own threat all to himself. Obviously you have Harvey Dent at the beginning and Two-Face at the end. Harvey Dent being this character that is the White Knight, who could necessarily just be a better Batman than Batman. And then at Two-Face, you get to see him at his most extreme good side and his most extreme downside by, both ends of the movie. Now let's turn it over to Harley Quinn for a second. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, I've seen Dark Knight twice, Harley Quinn once, and the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie has forgettable characters, but I think even if I had seen it multiple times, I couldn't remember them all. I'm actually going to pull up a quick picture here. You have one jump cut later. I was going to say you have these, group of girl characters who, you have the ex-cop who kind of just abandons the Force because the Force never treats her correctly. You have the Bertinelli daughter who becomes the Huntress, who was really cool in Arrow. Gotta give a shout out, and she's kind of cool in this movie too. Then you have Black Canary, who again really cool in Arrow, also cool in this movie. And then you have the daughter who, not daughter, sorry, you have the girl who swallowed the diamond to the Bertinelli fortune, which the movie's all about. But anyway, the point is, the characters don't really seem to stand on their own, do they? They always seem to kind of basically revolve around Harley. Now, a side point to this is that it's Harley's story, obviously, in that she could just be making it all up in her head. We're not really sure. It's kind of left up in the air, just like with Joker. But to me, it seems more important that the Batman himself has a story that, if Batman wasn't in it, could still stand as a good movie. And if Harley Quinn wasn't in Birds of Prey, the Birds of Prey couldn't really stand on their own. So to me, that is a sign that the movie doesn't have all of the best legs to stand on. So that, to me, is another reason why I think the movie could have done just a little bit better. Also, something that speaks to the confusion of everything is the fact that Birds of Prey is another attempt to make a DC, not universe, maybe, but it's another attempt to make a DC movie that can eventually mean something greater than what it is at the moment. With Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn movie, she basically could have been the tie-in for every DC movie, starting, of course, with Suicide Squad and going into this movie. And that's what movie studios are just doing now with their superhero characters, especially after the success of the MCU. They're all trying to jump on this and trying to make sure it's the best that they can possibly make it. Now, if we talk about Batman for a second, the Dark Knight trilogy essentially was always based movie to movie. Christopher Nolan got approached and was like, do you want to make a movie? Yes, no. If yes, let's make it. If no, then we're done. And that was always a good thing, because at the time there was no pressure, so he could just make a really good superhero movie for Batman. And I think that's one reason where this movie, talking about Birds of Prey again, kind of gets diluted, is just the fact that a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the fun scenes or whatever, they always speak to the attention grabbing of, we want you to stick around, we want you to watch the next thing, versus Dark Knight told a good story first and worried about the audience and their opinions of the next movie later, when the next movie eventually did come out. Yeah, so basically just some thoughts about the comparison between Dark Knight and Birds of Prey. I think anything else that I have to say is basically self-explanatory. The movie had a bigger budget for Dark Knight, which made a lot of the scenes more impactful, such as the blowing up of that actual building. Heath Ledger had to improvise as the Joker, stuff like that. Versus Harley Quinn's lower budget, they had to rely on, actors kind of talking and kind of pulling off jokes in order to make it more interesting. I just definitely think that DC has not done a good job of sticking to a good movie. That's why I said in the last video I hope that The Batman does a great job, because if it does, maybe we can see another success like The Dark Knight. I don't think it will ever be as successful, but maybe we can go somewhere with it. There was reports that not James Patterson, what's his name? Whatever, Twilight guy, that's really harsh to say, but he was on set with Nolan during Tenet, which again, that's going to be, I hope that's a really good movie. But they were on set, and the idea was that he didn't ask Nolan any questions about Batman, which, he's not the actor, but he directed all the Batman movies. So, I mean, that wasn't great news, but obviously it was just news, just to get people, riled up about the movie. So we'll see where it goes, we'll see where it does, and that's basically it. So thank you guys for watching my little, quick little take on the movies and quick little thoughts on it. I hope you guys will watch both of them. I think Birds of Prey isn't exactly a horrible movie to watch, but it's just not as strong as The Dark Knight. I definitely recommend Dark Knight first if you want to get a take of, DC movies and what they could have been had they gone this route the whole time. But that's it. So I will see you guys later. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. See ya.